It's really, and I know like these, we're all so excited about our ideas, and then we're our own worst enemy.
You're back. Just tell us what the link is. What's your name in the chat?
Oh no. Yeah, it's just this. Yeah, a slideshow of. Yeah, just scroll through it.
Okay. So what's the structure of like an episode?
Oh, it'll be explained in the slideshow, but yeah, I'm just going over. This is just over the characters of just.
Who are the people?
Which people? The main characters?
Yeah.
Yeah, there are two narcissists. That one, the girl is an artist that wants to cheat to win, but the other one is a cartoon supervillain brought to life, but he's a lawful evil supervillain. So they're both kind of bad people, but they're kind of balance off each other. One's more fair, one's more just ruthless. Yeah.
We should get the structure of the episode because I'm still not certain what the show is.
Dang. Sorry.
Well, why don't you maybe try to take us through an episode?
Okay. Well, essentially, like, it is based off a webcomic that I'm doing, but essentially the first episode is them just having a fight in the middle of a supermarket. But if they cause too much damage, they had to pay for that. But the thing is, they want to win, so they can't be too ruthless and stuff. Yeah. Also, yeah, you can bone cartoon characters in this world and reproduce.
Awesome.
I mean, if you could live in a world where you can bone cartoon characters, wouldn't you do it?
I mean,
look. You ever see Cool World? Don't you want to live there?
I haven't seen Cool World, but I'm very interested with this procreation situation. It's very wild. I don't know if I'm fully getting where it goes. I mean, maybe take us through another episode briefly.
Essentially, I don't know. In general, the format would just be them taking up challenges through that. Huh? What was the question? I'm sorry. Huh? 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 Huh?
That art?
Huh?
Did you draw that? Did you illustrate?
Oh, yeah. This is all mine in my graphic design.
Oh yeah, that's right. I'm back at the helm to dissect yet another animation reviewer's shitty attempt to make a cartoon, and this time it's none other than Rebeltaxi. Known for his channel under the same name, Rebeltaxi uses his platform to put out videos on a variety of topics, ranging from reviews of cartoons and movies to video games. However, today we'll be talking about his attempt at a webcomic, and by extension, the TV show he tried to pitch from the concept. So ladies and gentlemen, I suggest you strap in and get ready for this ride. But before that, I'd like to remind you to make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, and put in the comments what I should do a video on next. I'm starting to like doing these kind of video essay type vids on the channel, but let's get into this. Like so many others out there, I'm sure, my first experience with Loki IRL was seeing it on Adult Swim's pitch meeting back in October 2020. Sadly, that was the last pitch meeting stream they've done, at least for the time being. But let's hope it returns in the future, as it does bring in some funny characters with questionable pitches. But back to Rebeltaxi's. Usually, the format of the pitch meeting is as follows. People call in, they give their links to their animatic, show bible, script, etc. They explain their pitch along with the provided documents to the executives while answering any questions they have. It's a pretty simple way of doing a show like this. It's effective and to the point. As soon as we see Rebeltaxi come on the stream though, we can already tell there's an air of unprofessionalism to him. He's sitting on a couch as opposed to sitting at a desk, which makes it so his webcam is shaky and uneasy for the entire time he's on the stream. On top of that, he has no headphones, so he constantly has to ask what the executives just said because he can't hear them or isn't paying attention. So we've established that he wasn't prepared for the pitch. However, what good did come out of him going on the show? Honestly, to be blunt, nothing of value was added from Rebeltaxi coming on. He fumbled his words, he had no concrete answers for the questions that executives had asked him. On top of that, the tiny 18-slide presentation glossed over important aspects of his story, which I did read entirely, thank you very much. To be frank, he shouldn't have gone on, but I can't say I can commend a man who puts himself out there no matter how he's perceived. So for that simple fact, I can give Rebel a point in my book. Since we've gone over how his pitch went, let's go into the material in which it's derived from, his webcomic. Well, folks, it's the moment we all been waiting for. It's time for the main course. Get your bibs on and get ready to chow down, because we got a lot to digest here. Before we dive in though, I do have a disclaimer, as Rebeltaxi has recently come back to his webcomic and created a reboot that changes the story significantly. For right now though, I'm focusing on the story from the pre-reboot issues, as it's the version that he tried to pitch to Adult Swim. Our story begins at sunny, beautiful Comic Con. I mean, Cosmic Con. You'll find a repeating theme here with locations being copied from real-life counterparts, which isn't a bad thing, especially since this comic does take place in some sort of alternate version of our realities. So having names of locations and such being a bit different yet recognizable is fair to have. So we find our main character, Bianca, daydreaming about wanting to be a cartoonist before she runs off because her name is called up for an autograph. But wait a minute, what the fuck is that? My God, this is bad. Even if he was meaning to portray her as a 14-year-old, this is unacceptable. Hold on. Let me grade this real quick. I may not be a teacher, but I can sure as hell spot a bad writer when I see one. This does not bode well for the rest of the comic. The main character then meets up with her sister, Olivia, who's cosplaying a GameCube of all things, and I must say, this character has one of the worst designs of all of them in the comic. Mainly because of how hard it is to differentiate which way she's facing because the side of her nose looks like a fucking ear, only compounding the problem with her having only one visible eye that the audience can see. I honestly just see it as a problem with the art style more than the character design. A lot of characters I've seen here have the problem with anatomy, which the comic itself seems to reference as a non-issue, seeing as cartoonists don't need anatomy. I'm not even sure if it's a joke or a sentiment that Rebel actually holds, but nonetheless, the issue still remains as the art style. The style seems to work well on certain things, but not others. The humans in the show look far too cartoony, but it could be explained away that it's breeding of cartoons and humans that have changed the way they look so drastically. Still though, it's a jarring thing to see. Moving on from the art style, we have our main characters arrive at the panel hall where they meet up the panelists. This is where it gets a little too on the nose. Let me just show you how many of these characters are based on real life. It's also funny seeing a character that's supposed to be Craig McCracken literally tell audience members the same thing that Rebeltaxi hears from Gendy Tartakovsky about simple character motivation and relatable characters.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I think you've got a really interesting world, which is sometimes even hard to get. And I think you need to find a focus and an accessible drive, right? Because that usually is what hooks you in. It's something that we can find somewhat accessible and interesting because we've experienced it or we think about it. Love, sex, like you said, maybe everybody's trying to get laid, I don't know, or survival or whatever it is. But there's a simple get for the character's drive. And then that simplifies the idea. You've got your world, you've got your drive, and now you can build stories around that.
This comic really does suffer from having too many things happening and taking itself too seriously. It leaves the viewer fatigued almost with all the things that happen in such a short amount of time, along with the plethora of grammatical errors and the shit font making it even harder to bear this slog of a comic. Throughout the entire comic, it's almost impossible to ignore the many innumerable spelling errors plaguing this comic, which should have been an issue fixed by proofreaders or even a revision from reader feedback. You have to think, did Rebeltaxi just not care about the product he was putting out? But let me stop writing on the comic itself and get into the plot, since we'd be here all day if I don't. The plot and the concept of the comic revolves around the core fact that cartoons can inhabit the real world alongside humans, being called IRLs, short for in real life, of course. These cartoons have the traits that they have in their respective cartoon worlds, but not the immense power. I'd say the concept resembles more of a Yu-Gi-Oh style, as the cartoons are summoned from cards and have add-on pages that increase their power levels. Bianca wants to have an IRL, but is a terrible artist, so cuts corners to get where she wants to be. Even when offered a mysterious binder to be bought by her sister, she'd rather steal or change the price of it, not for any gain to herself, but to rip off the owner of the store. Well, the binder so happens to be something of value for a cult named The Fourth Wall, who steals the book from her and summons out Loki Lowbrow Sinister. But this is where it gets confusing. They say he's the chosen one, but at the same time want to beat the shit out of him, so it's a bit of an odd relationship these guys have. We get it explained that Loki's power is directly connected to the amount of people thinking about him at one time, so when the goons start beating the shit out of him and people record it, he gets a sudden power boost to be able to beat them all down and get away. The rest of the comic drags on as the two characters go to Olivia's house and then Bianca's school because it's also the first day of school for her, apparently. She ditches school at lunch with Loki, where she tells him about the origins of fourth wall code and how they believe they are in a TV show or comic, which they are, until they both get ambushed by one of Loki's arch rivals, which may or may not have been one of his friends at one point, since he refers to the fact that the Americans wiped his brain and made him forget about himself. After a long fight with the rival involving the police, Loki and Bianca get home and rest after a long day where she gets to reflect on herself, before inexplicably changing designs right at the end of the pre-reboot story. Honestly, the plot of the comic, while it may be too complex for what is essentially a Yu-Gi-Oh clone, does have some good concept. If honed correctly, I could definitely see the idea working, but as it stands, there are too many glaring issues, such as the fact that IRLs have the power to create more IRLs, which just seems silly to me. You wouldn't see a fucking Pikachu and Pokemon catching another with a Pokeball, just doesn't make sense to me. It also seems like a glaring issue that Loki, while being in a fucking stasis coming for almost 20 years, comes out the gate with fucking Wi-Fi in his gym to connect to internet. Modern internet at that. There's just too many issues I have with the pitch. I just don't understand how Rebeltaxi even thought this would get picked up in its current state. Which leads me to the reboot, baby. Whoa! Everyone loves a reboot. Oh yeah! It seems after 3 years of silence, Rebeltaxi decided to come back to the series and reboot it, to change around some things to make the story a little more streamlined. While Rebel has stated that this is a soft reboot, meaning that the overall canon of the comic is the same, it doesn't explain how some characters are yet different. The greatest example of this is Milky Milk, who was previously a half-breed but is now just an IRL controlled by a girl with the same name. She may still be a celebrity, but the manner of which is completely different. In this version of events, street fighting is legal for all, and tournaments are held for audiences to watch. The entirety of the first episode takes place inside of a market where 100 contestants fight to get to the second round of the tournament. There's not much to say about the plot, as it's only one episode of the story, but it seems we haven't seen the fourth wall, any of Loki's rivals yet in this iteration. Honestly, I think it's about time we wrap up this. What the fuck is that?
You okay, Loki? I'm good. Just forget I'm not so strong in real life. I'm still game. Face me, coward.
That's right. Right as I started working on this video, Rebeltaxi graced us with an animatic for Loki IRL. It ain't much, but it does show that he's been working behind the scenes on the project, so it's something to look forward to in the future. I hope he continues to follow this endeavor and see it through to at least release a couple episodes, no matter the length, as I'll be looking forward to them. But for now, there's not much else I can say other than good luck, Rebeltaxi, and I hope I didn't hurt your feelings too hard in this video. Now that the video is over, I'd like to take a minute to say you should go follow my Twitch, as I mainly do content over there, and I'm probably live directly after uploading this video, so come on and say hi. Twitch.tv/SonnyTM. Other than that, all I have to say is if you like the video, like and subscribe, and leave a comment down below to see what I should do next. Sonny, out.